Hello everyone, my name is Judy. I am doing my presentation today on soft masculinity in South Korea. So the topic that I chose was soft masculinity and how it changes South Korean society. And soft masculinity is just the soft appearances of men that are becoming more feminine over the course of time. And this includes both looks and also the personalities that we see on these Korean dramas and how they interact with each other to change societal norms and how society thinks that they should be responding to each other. So, as an example, the top photo in this slide is a representation of what a tough South Korean man would look like. They would be wearing a suit. There are harsher shadows on their face. They look a little more chiseled, while the bottom photo shows what soft masculinity really entails, which is soft skin. They have really nice light colored skin and more feminine features, a softer smile, and they may be wearing more casual clothing versus wearing a suit and tie every episode. So my research question is, how has Korean dramas changed the idea of masculinity in Korean society? And the findings are pretty interesting. My hypothesis for my topic was that Korean dramas have changed over the course of time, which is interesting because South Korean dramas have really taken off in the entertainment industry. But I wanted to really focus on how South Korean dramas have changed gender roles between men and women and how the expectations have changed throughout time. Throughout my paper, I delved into men embracing more feminine characteristics and being able to show that they really empathize with other people throughout their acting career. So being able to show empathy on the screen, which changes how people interact with each other. And then also creating unrealistic expectations of men because there is a strong place on men in Asian societies to provide for their families. So I wanted to see how South Korean dramas have changed over time and have influenced that part of societal norms. And the knowledge that I had prior to doing this paper was mainly about South Korean entertainment. I have watched a handful of Korean dramas in the past, so I wanted to see why they were changing the way that they were. For example, Boys Over Flowers was just the picture on the left. I never seen men with hairstyles like this until I watched this South Korean drama. So I wanted to see why that was becoming a new thing and why women were going crazy over these men and these Korean dramas. And also, the plastic surgery that men and women were getting was also something that has been talked about for a long time, and people always are saying like these actors and actresses are getting plastic surgery. Like, why do they need to do that? Well, they want to look a certain way and able to get these acting jobs and being able to appeal to these women who are watching these South Korean dramas and there's a certain look. And I wanted to go more into what that look is and what draws people to it. So I wanted to do a topic that I would be able to do that with. So, and also the makeup industry. South Korean makeup is really popular here in the States now, and I wanted to kind of study that a little bit more. For example, that middle picture is a artist from BTS, which is a K-pop band that is very popular right now. But the picture shows the artist wearing eyeshadow and eyeliner, which is typically in Western society not normal for men. But he is wearing it, and there are a lot of people saying, like, why is he wearing that? Like, he doesn't, like, he's a man, he doesn't need to do that. But then in South Korean culture, it is fairly normal to be wearing makeup on your wedding day, on a special occasion, on stage, especially if you're an actor or an artist in the entertainment industry. It is pretty normal, so I wanted to also see why that is. And then the last thing that I knew or wanted to kind of get more knowledge about was the fact that in South Korean dramas, they do come up with a little far-fetched storylines. For example, Coffee Prince, where the characters are, well, there's one character who's a woman who's pretending to be a man. So everybody thinks that he's really handsome, but in reality, he is a woman. So I wanted to see how that example would tie into everything that I would be studying. So for the methodology, I tried to find books that were focused on Asian studies, which is pretty difficult to find, that are peer reviewed and are journal articles that are actually something that you could use in a scholarly paper. But I was able to find a author that goes by Sun Jung, who created this book about Korean masculinity and the transcultural consumption of different types of media. So she was really able to touch base on a lot of different types of media and how they have affected Korean masculinity, but not just Korean masculinity in men, but also in different countries around Asia. So there are also some chapters on Hong Kong, Taiwan, and different kinds of Asian cultures. So if anyone's ever interested, that is the image on the right. The gender roles are different in each country, but they all ultimately tie back to South Korean society, which is really interesting. And other things that I used throughout my paper included articles from CNN and different types of blogs because I wanted to be able to see the opinions that people were having. So considering Western culture versus Asian culture and Asian Americans and what they thought about masculinity in men, that had to do with South Korean drama or South Korean entertainment, different kinds of K-pop groups, and how those K-pop groups interacted with South Korean societies, and how they influenced people who are living in different countries. So I thought that was very interesting. So the findings through my research, I did find that there's a sort of femininity in the features of men, which include makeup and vibrant skin. As you can see in the bottom picture, they have vibrant skin, very clear. They have a little bit of a type of like lip tint on. Um, Women find that very appealing with men with pink lips. And this is in comparison to what women did find appealing in the past, which is the more um, tough and gangster-like image, which is the one on the top. So you can see that how through the 80s and 90s there was a change from a tough man to a tough man who looks a little bit feminine, because as you can see, the character on the bottom is wearing an army uniform, which is considered tough, but if you look at his face, it's very soft and very pleasant to look at, which is what women thought was very appealing. And media has changed in that sense in South Korea, where they do find more feminine features more appealing, and that's why women go crazy for these men. And another finding that I found was that men in uh, South Korean dramas tend to show more charisma or tender charisma. And what that means is pretty much that they are able to show more empathy on screen. So they're more romantic and more, they do big gestures like flowers or romantic things like that. And that's what women really wanted to see in these South Korean dramas. As an example, on the right is Bae Young-jun, is a main character in a South Korean drama called Winter Sonata, and he was one of the main points of study for the book that I read regarding Korean masculinity. and his character was the one that was able to love his girlfriend or significant other in this drama, and he was really able to go the extra mile to show her how much that he cared about her. And there was more emotion, more love, and more romance in all of these South Korean dramas, and that's what has changed the idea of masculinity, because men are seen as emotionless and hard, and they don't show their emotions very often. So it was very refreshing to start seeing this in South Korean dramas, and that's what drew women to it. And there was also a term that I've never heard of before, that I found out through doing research, which is herbivore man. It's a spin-off of the carnivorous woman. So herbivore man is pretty much a man who shows all their emotions, wear their heart on their sleeve, and are really able to um, dance on the line of what masculinity really is in South Korean culture. And it is shown to change what men actually do in like real life, and they're more romantic because they see these men in South Korean dramas showing their girlfriends or wives how much they really do love them. So it's really interesting to see how that change has happened throughout time. One of the last findings that I found while doing research is that lead male characters in these Korean dramas are born into success and money, which draws an unrealistic expectation, and that also changes what masculinity is. So South Korean dramas are showing that money and success and being born into it is what masculinity really is, which I feel like is unrealistic in the sense where not everyone is born into success and money, and men in society, in South Korean society specifically, are tend to see it as the hardworking man who has to be able to bring home money for the family and for their wives and children. So it's very misleading in these South Korean dramas to see that everybody is born rich and they have a bunch of circumstances that no one in normal circumstances would have. So they're always shown as rich, which is also very hard to believe, but people do watch these South Korean dramas because it's something that they don't experience in real life. In order to draw my findings all together, I wanted to state that South Korean dramas has changed South Korean society by changing the norms of male looks, and along with the looks, they have changed the unrealistic expectations that are placed upon men in society, such as them having to be moneymakers and having them be romantic but and soft but tough at the same time. And that's what society has placed upon men, because all of these South Korean dramas have stated that this is how men should be, even if it is unrealistic. That's the ideal that is placed on these men in society. And showing more empathy towards their partners is also something that is placed upon them from South Korean dramas. Not everybody has the same means in order to have these big romantic gestures and show these ladies that they really love them. But in these South Korean dramas, that's what people show, and that's what's appealing to all these women in South Korean society. And in order to really depict what South Korean dramas has done to change South Korean society, is that all these dramas have a similar baseline that shows men as the rich and women as the poor, less fortunate person, and they fall in love, they get married. There's a lot of money involved, so it's difficult to have that situation reflecting on normal people in society. Not everybody has the same circumstances, so that's where it gets a little bit difficult. Is that South Korean dramas are changing um, in the media, and they're also changing the expectations of society. And it also is changing the way that people are starting to look, which is very interesting. And I hope that what you have seen in this presentation has really broadened your knowledge on South Korean dramas and the society between men and women in South Korea. And if there's any more questions, I'm more than happy to answer them in the discussion below. If you can also email me. I do have a lot of sources that can be looked through, so if anyone's interested, please let me know. Thank you and have a good day.